Hey, welcome. My name is Robin Posgay, and we have started a brand new program. I hope that you'll stay tuned. Hope for Them was started, oh my goodness, now more than 30 years ago. And we just have started kind of slow, minimal impact working with children in northern Mexico. um, God began to build hope inside of me. So when this door opened, I knew the perfect title was Never Lose Hope. Because what we took to northern Mexico in the early days of 1990 up until now was we were bringing hope. We learned very quickly that food is a game changer. When you go into a village, go into a little community, and you've got some hot food to people that are very much less fortunate than you, children will come running, moms will come out, and when you serve food, nourishment, with your hands of love, let me tell you, it changes everything. It opens hearts. People are ready to hear what you have to say. And I started experiencing that a long time ago. So throughout my life in ministry, we have done that. We've focused a lot on teaching, a lot on building relationships, but there was always this element that the ministry was bringing hope, and we utilized food to make a difference in the lives of people, but we also knew that we had to give more than just food. And when we made that decision to make sure that the gospel was always presented, God went with us, and that ministry segment began to grow in ways that I had not imagined. Then some things happened, and God began to send me to other nations. I had the opportunity to go to East Africa 4 years ago. I went to teach because I have a leadership program for pastors and teachers and leaders. And so I went to teach for that. But that network opened up so many doors with our heart centered around compassion and serving others and the desperate need of children in the world. When I became aware of what the slave trafficking was doing to children, how their lives were being altered and absolutely interrupted by being traded into slave trafficking, being utilized as work slaves, as labor forces. There are millions of children that fall victim to that. And God really began to deal with my heart about it. It's an act of compassion. It's very humanitarian. And feeding children is pretty easy. It's the afterglow of feeding them, because God required so much more of hope for them. We realized that God was really serious about bringing hope to them, bringing life to them, bringing opportunity to them. He was putting in their hearts the strength to never lose hope in their own dreams, in their own desires. And one day, God opened a door for us in the eastern portion of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. One of my students contacted me, who is a pastor there, and we were discussing how we could expand the Bible school program. And then he sent me a picture, and he said, "We have a desperate need here in the Congo. I want to show you and tell you a story. You're going to see beautiful faces of the Congo children that God has enabled us to reach through generous contributions. And you're just going to be so excited when you realize that your dreams can also come true. Just never lose hope on what God has for you. Our first group of kids, this is just a portion of them. There were 110. Now, let me tell you how they got there. Because of the brutality of life in that part of the world, there are civil wars, there are kidnappings, there is HIV runs rampant. And when parents are murdered or they die from disease, there are countless children that are left completely fatherless. All the children that you see there on the screen, they were found, 110 of them, sleeping on banana tree leaves on an island. And we had the opportunity, it was a big challenge, but just like Joseph, when God visited him and said, hey, I want you to marry Mary and I want you to protect her, Joseph obeyed in great humility, and God used him. Look, he was the caretaker of the Christ child. And when these kids came to me, my only answer was yes. Now, how do you feed 110 kids that are sleeping on the ground? And after you feed them the first time, how are you going to feed them the second time? What are you going to do with them? You can't just say, oh, fed you today, but, you're on your own tomorrow. God began to open the doors. We got them off the banana tree leaves. We actually housed them, put them on some sleeping mats. The great thing about it was the little local church there were people that were so willing to come and serve. So we brought a staff in with us, including a doctor that helped us to take care of them. And I want to share with you some of their personal stories. We had one little boy that was a part of this genocide, and the rebels just shoot people. One family was transporting coffee, and the rebels just came up, killed everybody that was in their boat. And this little boy's name is a victim of that genocide. His name is Glory, Glorie. Now I want to hold this picture up here for just a minute because I'd like for you to really look at it. He lives on the street. I don't think he's 2 years old yet. We have to have each child examined by a doctor, and they give us an estimation of their age. And from that, we also give them a birthday because they're abandoned. They live on the street. They don't know their last name. Some of them have been on the street for too long. They don't remember. They never heard their last name. They have no documents. So what we are doing is we're giving every child a full and complete name. Now, my last name is Pazgay. It is an old Hungarian name because I married a wonderful man, and his family were initial immigrants in the early 1900s from Hungary. So when we started talking about their names, he said, we have to give them a full name. So I said, well, what should we do about their last name, their family name? And he suggested that we give them my name. And I told him, oh no, we can't do that because forever these children will have to try and explain how a Congolese ended up with a foreign Hungarian American name. I wanted them to be named Hope. And in the Congo, they speak French. So this little boy's name is Glory Bel Esperance. When he gets his document, he will be a citizen of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And right now, he has no nation. He doesn't exist. Only in the eyes of the Lord and in our hearts. But we're going to fix that. And we do that with the help of our partners. That's what makes it possible. We're building a home for them. We need an additional home back on the mainland in the port city of Goma. These children now have hope. It has been brought to them. There has been so many circumstances this year that has caused us to actually save the lives of more than 12 children. Some have been under 14 months old, and when our team leader found them, they were dying. They only had maybe 24, maybe 30 hours to survive. But God has helped us. We rescue them. We take them to medical. They are hydrated. They are nourished. Most of them have malaria. They have measles. Some of our kids have had scabies, and their ends of their fingers and the ends of their toes are actually being eaten away by scabies. But God has helped us in a way that we have never experienced before. We have seen that in James, the Word of God says, the true ministry is the work among orphans and children. Widows and orphans. That's the true ministry. And I know that we all kind of, we like to think about doing that. And so if we know some widows or some widowers, we try to be kind to them. God brought that aspect of ministry so big into our lives. Here is this shot. I love this picture because you see the sadness in their faces. They're hungry. They're sad. They're beyond hungry. We say, oh, I'm starving. No, we're not starving. Starvation completely cripples you. It impacts every part of your physical being. It just destroys your whole system, your ability to think. The intestines, we have to be very careful when we nourish them. I can't help but look at them. I'm sorry. They are, I believe, every one of them has been sent to us by God, and we're doing everything that we can. When we got the 110, it was like, oh, great, and so we started feeding them. Then we realized nobody has any shoes. 110 pairs of shoes. So we found out that we could buy a bundle. So we bought 250 pairs of shoes in a bundle for $300. Everybody got shoes. We did their clothing the same way. Then we realized, oh my goodness, school is going to start. Do you know what it takes to send 110 kids to school? I was shocked. But God helped us. The Minister of Education was so gracious to us. God poured out his favor. The tribal chief on the island recognizes us, and he spoke up for us. And God just opened the door so that all of our kids started school on October the 15th when the Democratic Republic of Congo reopened school. It has been such an amazing journey, and we just started in July. This little boy here was the first child that I ever saw. His name is Eric. He has a place that he can go and sleep, but as soon as it's daylight, about 6 in the morning, the people in the house, they make him go out. So he has to look for his food all day long. The other children, they sleep on the streets. They spend the day looking for food. And because of that, because when you are that impoverished and that hungry, you will eat anything. And if they don't have food for the day, they will dig. They will dig in the dirt if they see something that looks like food, which is very infectious for them. But he's fine now. He has shoes, he has some new clothes, he has a home. We named the home Hope Home. And so he is there with the other children. We enrolled him in school. So everything that you're thinking about that you would need to do for your own children, we are also confronted with those same circumstances. We were thinking about Christmas, and some of our donors were thinking about sending funds to get balls and this and that. But the house that they're in is really small. We have 110 kids sleeping the mats are butted together, and we got the whole floor space is covered in sleep mats. So we barely have room for their school uniform, their 2 pairs of shoes, and a couple of changes of clothing. So I said, the American mind wants to give a toy. But we have children that are so impoverished, they've not had a toy. We need to find out what really is significant for a child in this circumstance, although it's greatly improved. But we don't want to overwhelm with the American mentality. We want to reach them right where they are. So guess what they got for Christmas? Cake and juice. It was a big deal. It was like the fiesta of a lifetime. We were so happy to be able to do that and to see them enjoying and celebrating Christmas their way, the Congo way. And we learned a lot by doing that. And that's how we're managing this. Last year, God spoke to me about creating a group of praying women around the world. And I obeyed the Lord, and I called the group Women of Hope. I'm based in near Galveston, Texas. And so there are a few of the Women of Hope that are close by, but it's global. We have women in every nation, and we have prayed for so many COVID patients, for cancer patients. God used this prayer team to really pray through to life for infants that were dying from various circumstances on life support. God gave us that miracle. So it's a very, very powerful team. In talking with the team leader that is based in Goma in the DRC, one day he said to me that he had to go and meet with a group of women, and they were women that had been captured by militants, by rebels. They had been tortured, they had been beaten, they had been raped, they had been starved, and they were released, and they were kind of living all in like one little area. And he found out about them, so he went to them. And I asked him to identify them as the Women of Hope, Goma. We now have over 200 women that we are ministering to that have been victim to the genocides. Their husbands have been killed out of their captivity. Some of them birthed children, and they are in a desperate situation. The plight of their life has changed drastically. So we began microloans, and immediately they have gone to work. They bought sewing machines. They're sewing. One lady bought chickens. She has the most beautiful brown eggs. Another lady has become a street vendor. She's sells oil and charcoal, which is absolutely the two things that you have to cook in East Africa. We give a microloan of $200, and they work, and they pay that loan back within 6 months, and we just give it to another woman. So the return on the investment for that is that another woman gets to come out of poverty, support her family, and take care of them. She gets to buy her own food, rent her own home, and progress with life, because in the condition that they're in now, they are totally dependent, and they are also begging for food. So we want to stop that, and that's when we started the microloans. The beautiful thing about that is now that they have come to Christ, we have started training them. And with the children that we're feeding on the streets in Goma, over 300 of them, they have become our team that prepares the food and goes with our team leader to serve and to minister to the children. So here's my point about all of that. See, if you are open and you are willing to do your part, whatever that might be, as God speaks to you, if you respond, maybe for a short term you don't see any reward or any return on your investment of, your $100, your $1,000, your $5,000. But let me tell you, it's an eternal investment. And with hope for them, you will begin to see a return immediately. That's a beautiful thing about the promises of God. He says that when we give, it is going to be given to us, pressed down, shaken together, full and running over. And I want to share something with you right now so that you know what your harvest is going to look like. I'm going to read you a scripture from Isaiah 55 and verse 13. This is the verse God dropped in my heart in 1992, that this is what he would do if I would be obedient. So let me read it to you. Instead of the thorn shall come up the fir tree, and instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle tree. And it shall be to the Lord for a name, for an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off. Because the verse before it says, if you will go out with joy, be a cheerful giver. If you will be led forth with peace, and the mountains and the hills will break forth before you. I want you to know that when we said yes to the 110 children in Lake Kivu, that I felt a peace that I have never felt in my 30 plus years of ministry. I had a joy. I broke out singing. My mind was not so tense. I don't know how to explain the mass amount of peace that came into my life. It was like nothing else mattered, because I knew that we were doing what God has called us to do, and that is to rescue the perishing. There they are. Look at them. Look at their faces now. Look at those smiles. This is our team leader, and this is a man of God. He's a pastor. He loves them. We started training them with a program God gave me called Christ First. And look at this. It was such a drastic change from the desperation, the sorrow, the loss, and we are bringing healing and hope to them, and that's our objective. They were once uh, like a thorn. Those nations don't know what to do with them. They're all up in arms. They're like, what can we possibly do? Thank God He sent them to us. They are now like a flourishing myrtle tree. You know the myrtle tree. It puts out this beautiful bloom. They're going to school. They celebrated Christmas. They're moving beyond their trauma, and they are becoming what God wants them to become. The older ones, we're going to teach them some skills. So, and we're praying that they will all go through all levels of school and end up at the university on the mainland to become what God has designed for them. I hope that you will join us. It would be a wonderful thing for you to decide to become a partner with us. Every dollar counts. Sometimes some people only have $5 and they give it to me and they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, it's just $5." And I go, "You know what? There's nothing too small, because little is much when God is in it." And what we do is we just take everything and we just put it into the pot, and then it just goes out. We're building a home for them, a 2-story home. We have plans to put a home in Goma, in the main city, because we already had to move them now. We have 10 over on the mainland. We have 119 back on the island. So I pray that you'll catch the information on the bottom, and may God bless you for being such a great part. Never lose hope.